Today is March 18th, 2026. Today, I will break down the uncertainties hanging over the US stock market. The recent geopolitical conflicts are getting worse, and they show no signs of stopping. Israeli Prime Minister announced a successful targeted strike in Tehran. The attack killed Ali Larijani, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council and its actual wartime leader. The Israel Defense Forces later confirmed that Soleimani was also killed in the same operation. This news acted like a strong shot of adrenaline, instantly boosting people's willingness to take financial risks. As a result, we saw a cheerful rise in the stock market at the opening bell. Airline stocks, which had been hit hard before, also started to bounce back. The logic is simple. The threat to the Strait of Hormuz, the world's busiest oil choke point, seems to be clearing up. After all, Kevin Hassett, head of the White House National Economic Council, added to this optimism. He announced that oil tankers have started to slowly pass through the Strait of Hormuz again. He also confidently predicted that the conflict will end in 4 to 6 weeks and will not cause a widespread supply chain crisis. The newly appointed Supreme Leader, Khamenei Jr., flatly rejected any foreign attempts at peace mediation. His statement was far from standard diplomatic rhetoric. It was a vow sworn in blood and fire. He made it clear that now is not the time for peace, declaring that true peace will only come once the US and Israel are defeated and forced to pay reparations. And the killing of Ali Larijani also means that any hopes for peace talks with Iran have completely vanished. Where this war is heading and when it will end, no one knows. Immediately following this, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, announced the launch of the 58th wave of retaliatory strikes under Operation True Promise 4. Target list was terrifyingly extensive. A coordinated barrage of missiles and drones carried out highly effective strikes against military sites within Israel, as well as US bases scattered across Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain. The financial markets finally woke up to a grim reality. This wasn't the end of the conflict, but rather the dawn of a much bloodier chapter. The assassinations of Larijani didn't force the Iranian regime to collapse or beg for mercy. Instead, they fueled a burning desire for national revenge, proving that so-called decapitation strikes are highly ineffective when up against deep-rooted national outrage. What makes the market even more nervous is the delicate attitude of the United States and its traditional allies regarding this matter. Reports show that when the Trump administration asked for a coalition to escort ships in the Strait of Hormuz, allies from Europe, like Germany, the UK, and France to the Asia-Pacific, like Australia and South Korea, almost all said a polite but firm no. Their excuses were all different, but the core reason was the same. This is not Europe's war, NATO hasn't authorized it, and diplomatic solutions should come first. However, Trump's response was equally tough. He said that America no longer needs support from Japan, Australia, or South Korea. He stated that as the president of the most powerful country in the world, the US doesn't need anyone's help. This sounds very bold and aggressive, but investors heard a different message. The US might have to carry the burden of these growing risks and global economic shocks all by itself. The biggest uncertainty right now is that geopolitical conflict has replaced the AI bubble as the #1 extreme risk in the market. Fund managers are desperately switching their playbooks from a boom scenario to a stagflation scenario where growth is slow but inflation is high. As the most direct way to protect against inflation, investments in commodities have jumped to their highest levels since April 2022. NVIDIA's CEO speech at the annual GTC conference shined a bright ray of hope into the gloomy market. In NVIDIA's view, computing power and tokens are the new commodities. This isn't just an empty slogan. It is a reality backed by trillions of dollars. Simply put, NVIDIA painted a huge, beautiful picture for the future. But the ingredients, the recipe, and the exact time it will be ready are all clearly visible, leaving no room for doubt. If Jensen Huang provided the shovels to conquer the future, then Cathie Wood and her team showed the market the world-changing gold mine those shovels can dig up. Right now, many investors are aggressively buying into this science fiction-like growth potential of computing power. This buying force has become the backbone holding up the entire stock market, stopping it from going into a free fall. However, all these exciting stories on the ground still depend on the weather of monetary policy above. The inflation pressure caused by geopolitical conflicts has thrown a very difficult problem directly at the Federal Reserve. Nick Timiraos, the well-known Fed whisperer, wrote an article before the meeting predicting what Chairman Powell might say. First, doing nothing is certain. The chaos in the Middle East means the Fed definitely won't dare to change interest rates this week. They will just repeat Powell's favorite phrase, wait and see. Second, the Fed is divided inside. On one side, the inflation-focused officials are terrified that inflation will come back, so they strongly oppose cutting rates. On the other side, the employment-focused officials worry that high oil prices will kill consumer spending and drag down the economy. They want to keep the option to cut rates to prevent a recession. At the press conference, Powell will be walking a tightrope between fighting inflation and worrying about the economy. Any strong words about inflation will make the market think rates will stay higher for longer. Any worries about an economic slowdown might give the market some short-term comfort. Every single word he says will be analyzed frame by frame. The market is extremely tense about the upcoming Fed decision. If we look at the options market for the three major indexes, things have reached a crazy level. IWM, the put-call ratio has hit 2.31, with a shocking implied volatility 4 percentile of 90%. SPY and QQQ. These are similar, with a put-call ratio of about 1.3 and an a percentile of 80%. This clearly shows that the options trades for shorting or protecting against a drop are incredibly crowded. Currently, all three major indexes are moving sideways in a downward trend. We will either break out up or break down. Don't laugh. This isn't just an empty statement. When you mix together unavoidable outside risks, the upcoming Fed meeting, massive short positions, and the hot passion of retail investors, I can only say that the best move right now is no move at all. Keep your cash and wait for the market to give a clear answer. Personally, I believe short-term market swings will be incredibly violent. Please do not blindly chase the rallies or panic sell the drops. Protect your positions, protect your cash, and I hope everyone can safely get through this turbulent time, and wishing for world peace.